My son Marcus walked into the kitchen on a Saturday morning while I was making pancakes, and he said something that stopped my heart. "Mom, why do you have another family?" I turned around slowly, the spatula still in my hand, batter dripping onto the floor, and I stared at him. "What did you just say, baby?" He was holding his phone, his 11-year-old face serious in a way that made my stomach drop. "You have another family," he repeated, and then he turned his phone around to show me a photograph. And when I saw what was on that screen, I felt like the ground had opened up beneath me, because staring back at me from that photo was my face, my exact face. But it wasn't me. The woman in the photo was standing in front of a house I'd never seen, with her arms around two children I'd never met, and she was smiling the same smile. I smiled. She had the same dimple in her left cheek, the same gap between her front teeth, the same birthmark on her neck shaped like a crescent moon. She looked exactly like me. But I had never taken that photo. I had never been to that house. I had never met those children. My name is Lorraine Baker. I'm 53 years old, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my life. I was born in Chicago, raised by my mama Dorothy. After my father left when I was 2 years old, I had no siblings at least. That's what I'd always been told. I married young had Marcus when I was 42, after years of fertility treatments, and I'd spent my whole life believing I was an only child, that my family tree was small, simple, just me, my mama, and my son. But that photo, the one Marcus was showing me, that photo was about to unravel everything. I thought I knew about who I was, where I came from, and the secrets my mama had buried for over 50 years. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far it's traveled. "Marcus, where did you get this photo?" I asked, my voice shaky. He sat down at the kitchen table, still holding his phone. "I found her on Instagram." He said, "Her name is Lorraine, too. Lorraine Davis. She lives in Atlanta, and Mom, she looks exactly like you all." My friends were saying I had a twin or something. So I messaged her, and she said she didn't know she had a twin either. She thought she was an only child, too. My hands were trembling. I pulled out a chair and sat down next to him. "Show me," he handed me his phone, and I scrolled through this woman's Instagram profile. Lorraine Davis, age 53, born in Chicago, currently living in Atlanta, married with 2 teenage kids, and in every single photo she looked like me. Not similar, not kind of like me, but identical. We had the same round face, the same high cheekbones, the same deep brown skin, the same curly hair that we both wore in locks. Hers were longer than mine, but the pattern was the same. We even had the same style. We both wore big hoop earrings, colorful scarves, the same kind of flowing dresses. It was like looking in a mirror. Except this mirror showed me living a completely different life. I clicked on one photo where she was standing with her family. Her husband was tall and handsome. Her kids were beautiful, a boy and a girl, maybe 15 and 17 years old, and she looked happy. Genuinely happy in a way that made my chest ache. The caption said, "Blessed beyond measure, grateful for my family, my life, my journey. Hashtag adoptee, hashtag found family, adoptee." The word hit me like a punch. I scrolled back through more photos and found one from a few months ago where she'd posted a long caption about recently discovering she was adopted, about how she'd always felt like something was missing, about how she was searching for her birth family and trying to understand where she came from. My throat felt tight. I looked at Marcus, who was watching me with wide, worried eyes. "Baby," I said carefully, "I need you to understand something. I don't know who this woman is. I've never seen her before in my life, but she looks just like you." He said, "Exactly. Like you, I know." I whispered, "I know, and I don't understand it either, but I'm going to figure it out, I promise." That night, after Marcus went to bed, I sat in my living room with my laptop, and I did what any person in the 21st century does when their world gets turned upside down. I started Googling. I typed in Lorraine Davis Atlanta and found her Facebook page, her LinkedIn, her Twitter. Everywhere she had a presence online, and the more I read, the more my confusion grew. She was a social worker. She volunteered at a women's shelter. She was active in her church. She posted about social justice, about her kids, accomplishments, about her garden. She seemed like a good person, a normal person, someone I would probably like if I met her under different circumstances. But the most important thing I learned was in a Facebook post from 8 months ago where she'd written about discovering she was adopted. She said she'd found her adoption papers in her parents' attic after they passed away, both of them, within a year of each other, and that she'd been born in Chicago on March 15, 1970. One March 15, 1971, that was my birthday. We weren't just twins. We were identical twins, separated at birth, and somehow neither of us had known. I sat there staring at my computer screen, feeling like I was in an episode of some twisted reality show. How does this happen? How do two identical twins get separated and neither one knows about the other for 53 years? And more importantly, why would my mama who I trusted, who raised me alone, who sacrificed everything, for me, why would she keep this from me? I picked up my phone and stared at it for a long time before I finally dialed my mama's number. She answered on the third ring. "Hello, baby." Her voice was warm, familiar, the voice that had comforted me through every heartbreak, every struggle for my entire life. "Mama," I said, "I need you to tell me the truth about something." "Of course, baby, what is it?" "Did you give up a baby when I was born?" The silence on the other end of the line was so long, so heavy that I knew the answer before she even spoke. "Lorraine," she finally said, her voice cracking. "How did you find out my mama came over the next morning?" She looked older than I'd ever seen her. Smaller somehow, like she'd shrunk overnight. She sat down on my couch and I sat across from her in the armchair, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. "Mama," I said, "start from the beginning and tell me everything." She took a deep breath, her hands twisting in her lap. "I was 17 when I got pregnant with you two." She began, "You two." The words felt surreal. "Your father, he was 19, and we were young and stupid and in love, or at least I thought it was love when I told him I was pregnant. He left, didn't even say goodbye, just disappeared, and I was alone and terrified. My own mama, your grandmother, she'd passed away the year before, and I had no one, no family, no support. I didn't know what to do." She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. "I didn't even know I was having twins until I went into labor. Can you imagine that baby going to the hospital thinking you're having one baby, and then they tell you there's another one coming? I was 17 years old, working 2 jobs, living in a tiny studio apartment, and suddenly I had 2 babies, 2 mouths to feed, 2 bodies to clothe, 2 lives depending on me, and I couldn't do it. Lorraine, I wanted to. I tried to convince myself I could, but I couldn't." "So what did you do?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She looked down at her hands. "I kept one, and I gave one up for adoption. I told myself it was the best thing for both of you, that you'd each have a better chance at a good life if you weren't competing for resources, that I could give one of you everything. Instead of giving both of you nothing, and which one did you keep?" I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since this all started. "How did you choose?" She looked up at me then, and the pain in her eyes was so raw, so real, that despite my anger, despite my confusion, I felt a flicker of sympathy. "I didn't choose." She whispered, "The nurse did when you were born. You came out first. She handed you to me and I held you, and you opened your eyes and looked at me, and I fell in love. Then your sister came, and they took her to clean her up, and the nurse, she could see how overwhelmed I was, how young I was, and she said to me, 'Honey, you know you don't have to keep both of them. There are families who would love to adopt a baby, families who can give her things you can't.' And I was so tired, so scared, and I said okay, without even holding her, without even looking at her. I just let them take her away. I sat there trying to process what she was telling me, trying to understand how a person makes a decision like that. You never tried to find her. I asked you never wondered what happened to her every single day. Mama said, tears streaming down her face now every single day for 53 years. I wondered if I made the right choice. I wondered if she was okay, if she was happy, if she hated me for giving her away. But I was too scared to look too scared of what I might find. And I thought it was better for both of you if you never knew. Because what good would it do? What good would it come from you knowing you had a sister out there somewhere? A sister. You'd never met a sister. I kept from you. The anger that had been building in my chest finally exploded. You had no right, I said, standing up. You had no right to make that decision for us. Mama, do you understand what you took from us? We could have known each other. We could have grown up together. We could have had each other, and instead you decided for us. You decided we were better off alone. I know, she sobbed. I know. And I'm sorry, Lorraine. I'm so sorry. But you can't undo this. You can't give us back 53 years. No, I said I can't. But you could have. You could have told me when I was 18, when I was 30, when I was 40. At any point in my life, you could have given me the truth, and you chose to keep lying. You chose to let me believe I was alone in this world when I wasn't. I couldn't look at her anymore. I walked to the door and opened it. I think you should go, baby, please. She started, but I cut her off. Just go, Mama. I need time. I need to think. She stood up, slowly gathered her purse, and walked to the door. She paused there looking at me. One more time, I love you, she whispered. I've always loved you, both of you. Even the one I gave away? I couldn't respond. I just stood there holding the door until she left, and then I closed it behind her, and I slid down to the floor, and I cried for the sister I never knew, for the mother who'd lied to me for 53 years, and for the life we all could have had if someone had just been brave enough to tell the truth. That afternoon, I sent Lorraine Davis a message on Instagram. I sat there staring at the blank message box for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what to say. How do you introduce yourself to your identical twin sister who you never knew existed? Finally, I just wrote the truth. Hi, my name is Lorraine Baker. I live in Chicago. I'm 53 years old, born on March 15th, 1971, and my son found your Instagram and showed me your photos. I think we might be twins. I think we were separated at birth, and I think we need to talk. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. And then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a notification. She'd responded. Oh my God, she wrote. I've been looking at your profile since your son messaged mine yesterday. I couldn't believe it. I showed my husband, and he thought I was looking at photos of myself. I didn't know how to reach out. I didn't know if you knew, if you wanted to know. But yes, we need to talk. Can we video chat? We exchanged phone numbers, and 5 minutes later, I was sitting on my couch staring at my phone screen as a video call connected, and then there she was, my twin sister, my identical twin sister, staring back at me with the same shocked expression I probably had on my face. Oh my God, she said. Those were the first words my sister ever said to me. Oh my God, you really do look exactly like me. I laughed a shaky, nervous laugh. Yeah, I do. We just stared at each other for a long moment, taking it in the reality of seeing yourself in another person, seeing the life you could have had reflected back at you. This is insane, she finally said. Completely insane, I agreed. So where do we even start? I guess at the beginning, she said. I found out I was adopted 8 months ago. My parents both passed away last year, and I was cleaning out their attic, and I found my adoption papers. They never told me my whole life. They never said a word, and then they were gone, and I couldn't ask them why. I couldn't ask them anything. My mama told me this morning. I said that she kept me and gave you up for adoption. We were born in Chicago. She was 17 and alone, and she couldn't handle 2 babies. Lorraine, her voice got quiet. Does she does? She regret it. I thought about the look on my mama's face that morning, the tears, the pain, The 53 years of guilt. Yes, I said she regrets it every day. But that doesn't change what she did. That doesn't give us back the time we lost. We talked for 3 hours that first call. We compared our lives, our childhoods, our experiences. She told me about growing up in Atlanta with her adoptive parents who were wonderful. She said, loving and supportive, but strict, very strict. She told me about always feeling like she didn't quite fit, like there was something missing. Even though she had a good life, she told me about her husband Richard, who she'd met in college, and her kids Jasmine and Michael, who were her whole world. I told her about growing up in Chicago with just Mama, about the struggles we'd faced, the poverty, the hard times, but also the love. The fierce protective love Mama had for me, even if she'd lied. I told her about Marcus, about my late husband David, who'd passed away from a heart attack 3 years ago, about my job as a high school English teacher, about my small, quiet life. We discovered we both loved reading, that we both had the same favorite book, Beloved by Toni Morrison. We both hated mushrooms. We both had the same nervous habit of twirling our hair when we were anxious. We both talked with our hands. We both had the same laugh, loud and unapologetic. We were the same person split in two, living parallel lives that should have intersected decades ago at the end of the call. Lorraine Davis, my sister, said, we need to meet in person. I need to hug you. I need to know this is real. I agreed immediately. When next weekend I'll fly to Atlanta. We can spend time together, really get to know each other. She smiled, and it was like looking in a mirror next weekend. And Lorraine, yeah, thank you for finding me. Thank you for reaching out. You found me too. I said, we found each other. I didn't tell Mama I was going to Atlanta to meet Lorraine. I was still too angry, too hurt to talk to her, to even look at her, but I told Marcus, and his eyes lit up in a way they hadn't since his father died. Mom, that's so cool, he said. You're going to meet your twin sister. Can I come? No, baby? I said, not this time. I need to do this alone. I need to figure out who she is, who we are together. But I'll tell you everything when I get back, I promise. The flight to Atlanta felt like the longest 2 hours of my life. I kept thinking about all the questions I wanted to ask Lorraine, all the things I wanted to know. Did we have the same mannerisms? Did we sound the same when we talked? Did we have the same fears, the same dreams? Were we really as identical as we seemed, or were there differences shaped by 53 years of living separate lives? Lorraine picked me up from the airport, and the moment I saw her standing there holding a sign that said, "Welcome home, sister," I started crying. She dropped the sign and ran to me, and we hugged right there, in the middle of the airport, 2 53-year-old identical twins meeting for the first time. And it felt like coming home. It felt like finding a piece of myself I didn't even know was missing. You're real, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. You're really real, so are you? I said. We drove to her house in the suburbs, a beautiful 2-story home with a well-maintained garden and a porch swing, and when we pulled into the driveway, her family came out to meet me. Her husband Richard was warm and welcoming, shaking my hand and saying it's like seeing double. I can't believe this. Her kids were shy at first, but curious. Jasmine kept staring at me, comparing my face to her mother's, and Michael kept asking questions about Chicago, about my life, about whether I liked basketball, because his mom loved basketball. We spent the whole weekend together, talking, laughing, sharing stories. Lorraine showed me photo albums from her childhood, and I showed her mine on my phone. We compared pictures of ourselves as babies, as toddlers, as teenagers, and in every single one we looked identical. Even our baby pictures were indistinguishable. She told me about her life, the struggles of being a Black woman in the South, even in a city like Atlanta, the racism she'd faced, the barriers she'd overcome. She told me about her work as a social worker, how she dedicated her life to helping women and children in crisis, how she'd always felt drawn to that work, like she was trying to save the people she couldn't save in her own past. I told her about my life, about teaching high school English in an underfunded school on the south side of Chicago, about the kids I worked with who reminded me of myself at that age, hungry for knowledge, hungry for a way out, about how I'd always felt like I was fighting upstream, trying to make a difference in a system that didn't care on Saturday night after her kids went to bed. And Richard excused himself to give us privacy. Lorraine and I sat on her back porch with glasses of wine, and we talked about the hard stuff. "Do you resent me?" she asked quietly. "Because I got adopted. Because I got the stable family, the suburban house, the easier life." I thought about it, honestly. "No." I said, "I don't resent you. None of this is your fault. You didn't choose to be adopted any more than I chose to be kept. But I do resent the choice that was made. I resent that someone decided, for us, that we were better off apart." She nodded. "I feel the same way. My parents, my adoptive parents, they were good people. They loved me, but they should have told me. They should have given me the choice to find you, to know you and your birth mother." "She should have too, yeah." I said she should have. "Do you want to meet her?" Lorraine asked. "I don't know." I admitted I'm still so angry at her, but also what? Also, I understand why she did it. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I understand. She was 17 and alone and terrified, and she thought she was doing the right thing, even if it was the wrong choice. Lorraine reached over and took my hand. "We can't change the past," she said, "but we can change the future. We can decide right now that we're not going to waste any more time, that we're going to be sisters for real, that we're going to make up for the 53 years we lost." I squeezed her hand deal before I left Atlanta on Sunday. We made plans, lots of plans. I would come back. For Thanksgiving, she would come to Chicago for Christmas. We would talk on the phone every week, video chat with the kids, do family vacations together. We would be sisters in every way that mattered. We would make up for lost time, and we would make sure our kids knew each other, grew up together, had the relationship we never got to have. When I got back to Chicago, I finally called my mama. "We need to talk." I said when she answered, "I know," she said quietly, "Come over." I drove to her apartment, the same small one-bedroom place she'd lived in for 30 years, and when she opened the door, I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked exhausted. "Did you meet her?" Mama asked as we sat down in her living room. "Yes, I said. I spent the weekend with her in Atlanta, and Mama, she's wonderful. She has a good life, a husband, kids, a career. She's everything you hoped she would be when you gave her up." Mama started crying again. "I'm so glad," she whispered. "I'm so glad. She's okay." "But," I said, and Mama looked up at me. "But she grew up not knowing where she came from, not knowing she had a twin sister, not knowing she had a birth mother who thought about her every day, and that was your choice. You could have found her. You could have told both of us at any point, but you didn't. And I need to understand why." Mama wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. "I was ashamed." She said, "I was so ashamed of what I'd done, of the choice I'd made. And the longer I waited, the harder it got to tell the truth. I kept thinking, I'll tell you when you're older, when you're ready. But there was never a right time, and eventually it had been so long that I convinced myself it was better to just keep the secret to let sleeping. Dogs lie. She looked at me with pleading eyes. I know I was wrong, Lorraine. I know I took something from you that I can never give back. But I need you to know I did it out of love. Even if it was misguided, even if it was selfish, I thought I was protecting you from pain, from the confusion of having a sister you couldn't be with. I thought I was making it easier. I know I said, and that's what I'm still trying to forgive, not just the original choice, but all the years of lying, all the opportunities. You had to tell me the truth and didn't. Mama nodded. I understand, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or maybe ever. But I hope someday you can understand that everything I did, even the terrible things I did, because I loved you, because you were my whole world, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. We sat in silence for a while, and then I said, Lorraine wants to meet you. She wants to meet her birth mother. Mama's head snapped up. She does, I nodded. Yes, she has questions. Lots of questions about why you made the choice you did, about her birth father, about our family history and Mama. She deserves answers. Will you meet with her? Mama was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Yes. If she wants to meet me, I'll meet her. I'll tell her everything I owe her, that much." 3 weeks later, Lorraine flew to Chicago, and the three of us sat down together in my mama's living room. It was the strangest, most emotionally charged meeting I'd ever been part of, watching my mama meet the daughter she gave up watching, Lorraine. Meet the woman who gave birth to her. Watching them look at each other, with 53 years of questions and pain and longing between them. Lorraine didn't hug Mama when she arrived. She just stood there in the doorway, looking at her and Mama. Stood there looking back, and I could see the recognition in both their eyes. The same nose, the same cheekbones, the same way of standing with their weight on one hip. "You look like your father," Mama said finally, her voice breaking. He had that same serious look when he was thinking. Lorraine's jaw tightened. "Why did you give me away?" she asked. No preamble, no small talk. Just the question that had been haunting her for 8 months. Mama sat down heavily on the couch and gestured for us to sit. Then she told her story again, but this time with more details. She told Lorraine about our father, Marcus Green, who was 19 and charming and completely unprepared for fatherhood. She told her about the poverty she'd been living in, the studio apartment with no heat, the 2 jobs that barely paid enough for food. She told her about holding me first, about the nurse's suggestion, about the split-second decision that changed all our lives. "I didn't hold you," Mama said to Lorraine, tears streaming down her face. "I've regretted that every day for 53 years that I didn't hold. You didn't look at you, didn't give you even that one moment. And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I can't take it back, I can't undo it, but I need you to know that giving you up was the hardest thing I ever did, and not a day has passed that I haven't thought about you, haven't wondered about you, haven't prayed that you were safe and loved and happy." Lorraine was crying too, and so was I. We all sat there, crying for the family we could have been, for the time we'd lost, for the choices that had split us apart. "I had a good life," Lorraine said finally. "My parents loved me. I never wanted for anything, but I always felt like something was missing. Like there was a hole in my life I couldn't explain, and now I know why. Now I understand that feeling was you." She looked at Mama and me. "It was both of you." Mama reached out tentatively and took Lorraine's hand. "Can you forgive me?" she asked. "I don't know," Lorraine said honestly. "But I want to try. I want us to have a relationship. I want to know you, and I want my kids to know their grandmother. And I want to understand where I come from. Even if it's painful, even if it's complicated, that's all I can." "Ask," Mama said. "That's more than I deserve." Over the next year, Lorraine and I built the relationship we should have had from birth. We talked on the phone every week long, rambling conversations about everything and nothing. We video chatted, so our kids could get to know each other. Marcus and Jasmine became especially close, bonding over their shared love of science fiction and their shared experience of being only children who suddenly had extended family. Lorraine came to Chicago for Christmas, and we had a big family dinner at Mama's apartment, all of us together. For the first time, Mama cooked her famous collard greens and cornbread and sweet potato pie, and we sat around her small table telling stories, laughing, and yes, crying too, because even happy moments were bittersweet when you'd missed out on 50 years of them. I went back to Atlanta for Easter, and Lorraine's husband, Richard, treated me like family. Immediately he joked that he'd always wanted a sister-in-law, and now he had one who looked exactly like his wife, which was either really cool or really creepy. We decided on cool. We discovered more similarities as we spent time together. We both loved old Motown music. We both cried at the same movies. We both had the same political views, the same sense of humor, the same way of seeing the world. We finished each other's sentences. We had the same opinions on almost everything. And when we disagreed, it was fascinating to explore how our different life experiences had shaped our perspectives. But we also discovered differences. I was more introverted, where she was extroverted. She was more spontaneous, where I was a planner. She loved cooking, and I hated it. I loved reading late into the night, and she was an early, morning person. These differences reminded us that while we shared DNA, while we looked identical, we were still our own people, shaped by 53 years of different experiences, different challenges, different joys, and somehow that made our relationship even more special, because we weren't just twins. We were two complete separate individuals who were choosing to build a connection, choosing to be sisters, choosing to create the family we'd been denied. On our 54th birthday, Lorraine and I decided to do something we'd never done before: celebrate together. She flew to Chicago, and we had a joint birthday party at my house with all our friends and family. Mama was there, looking happier than I'd seen her in years, watching her two daughters. Together, finally, Lorraine's kids flew in, and Marcus was so excited to have his cousins there, and we all gathered in my living room with a huge cake that said, "Happy Birthday, Lorraine and Lorraine," and everyone sang, and we blew out the candles together. And it felt right. It felt like this was how it always should have been. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Lorraine and I sat on my couch looking through old photo albums, comparing our lives side by side. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "what would have happened if we'd grown up together all the time?" I said, "Every day." "What do you think?" She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I think we would have been inseparable. I think we would have shared clothes and fought over boys and stayed up late talking about our dreams. I think we would have protected each other from the hard parts of life and celebrated each other through the good parts. I think we would have been best friends." "Yeah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I think so, too." But Lorraine added, "We can't live in the what-ifs. We can only live in the what is, and what is that we have each other now. We have a chance to be sisters for the rest of our lives, however long that is, and I'm not going to waste another minute wishing for the past, when I can be grateful for the present." I raised my wine glass to that. She clinked hers against mine. "To the future," she said, "to sisterhood, to family, to never taking another day for granted, to never taking another day for granted." I repeated, and we drank. And in that moment, I realized something important. Yes, we'd lost 53 years. Yes, we'd been robbed of a childhood together, of shared memories of growing up side by side. Yes, our mama had made a choice that had consequences none of us could have predicted. But we were here now. We had found each other. We had a chance to build something beautiful from the broken pieces, and that was a gift. Not everyone gets. Some people go their whole lives never knowing they have a twin, never finding that missing piece, never getting the chance to reclaim what was lost. We were the lucky ones because we found each other, and we were determined to make every moment count. Mama's health started declining about 6 months after that birthday. She'd been diagnosed with diabetes years ago, but she hadn't been managing it well, and now she was dealing with complications, kidney problems, vision problems. Her body was slowly shutting down. Lorraine and I took turns taking care of her. We set up a schedule where I'd stay with her during the week, and Lorraine would fly in on weekends or vice versa, and we'd sit with her in her apartment, helping her with medications, making sure she ate, helping her to the bathroom when she was too weak to walk on her own one night, when it was particularly bad, when Mama was in a lot of pain and couldn't sleep. I sat by her bedside, holding her hand, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered again, like she'd said 1,000 times since Lorraine and I reconnected. "I'm so sorry for what I took from you both." "I know, Mama," I said, "and I've forgiven you." It had taken me a long time to get to that place, to truly forgive her. But watching her suffer, watching her body fail, I realized that holding on to anger was pointless. She'd made a choice born out of fear and desperation, and she'd lived with the consequences of that choice for 53 years. She'd punished herself far more than I ever could. "Lorraine forgives you too," I told her. "She told me to tell you that she understands why you did it, and she's grateful that you brought us back together, even if it took longer than it should have." Mama smiled a small, sad smile. "That's good," she said. "That's all I wanted. I just wanted you both to be okay." I called Lorraine that night after Mama fell asleep. "You should come." I told her I don't think she has much longer. Lorraine caught the first flight. Out the next morning, and by that afternoon, we were both there, sitting on either side of Mama's bed, each holding one of her hands. Mama was in and out of consciousness, but during one of her lucid moments, she opened her eyes and looked at both of us, and she smiled. "My girls," she whispered. "Both of my beautiful girls together. I did one thing right. I gave you back to each other. You did." Mama Lorraine said you did good. We were there 3 days later when Mama took her last breath, both of us, holding her both of us, telling her we loved her both of us, thanking her for giving us life, even if she'd separated us for most of it. Both of us promising her we'd take care of each other, that we'd never let anything come between us again, that we'd be the sisters she'd always wanted us to be. And when she was gone, when the nurse came and checked her pulse and nodded and said, "I'm sorry for your loss, Lorraine," and I held each other and we cried, not just for Mama, but for everything. The lost years, the found connection, the complicated, messy, beautiful reality of family. We buried Mama on a Tuesday in a small cemetery on the south side of Chicago. It was a simple service, just family and a few close friends. The pastor talked about redemption, about second chances, about how it's never too late to make things right. And I thought about how Mama had spent the last year of her life watching her daughters build the relationship she'd denied them, watching her grandchildren become friends, watching the family she'd fractured slowly heal. And maybe that was her redemption. Maybe that was enough after the service, after everyone had left. And it was just Lorraine and me standing by Mama's grave. I said, "Do you think she's at peace?" Now Lorraine looked at the fresh earth, the simple headstone that read, "Dorothy Mae Johnson, beloved mother and grandmother." And she said, I think she spent 53 years carrying the weight of her choice. And now she's free and so are we. We're free to be sisters. Without guilt, without the shadow of her secret hanging over us, we're free to build our own family, our own story. That's a good way to look at it, I said. Lorraine put her arm around me. We're going to be okay. She said, you and me? We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be great. I leaned my head on her shoulder and looked at Mama's grave, and I silently thanked her for the gift she'd given me, even if she'd waited 53 years to deliver it. She'd given me a sister, a twin, a person who understood me in ways no one else ever could, and that was worth everything. Even the pain, even the lost years, even the complicated, messy journey it had taken to get here. It's been 2 years now since Marcus showed me that photo. 2 years since my world turned upside down. 2 years since I discovered I had an identical twin sister living a parallel life in Atlanta. And in those 2 years, everything has changed. I talk to Lorraine almost every day. We text, constantly sending each other memes and articles and photos of what we're doing. We video chat with our kids. We plan vacations together. We've even talked about me retiring from teaching and moving to Atlanta to be closer to her, or her retiring from social work and moving to Chicago to be closer to me. We haven't decided yet. But the point is, we're building a life together, a shared life that honors both our individual experiences and our connection as twins. Marcus is 14 now, and he's so proud of the role he played in all of this. He tells everyone about how he found my twin sister on Instagram, about how he brought us back together. He and Jasmine and Michael are thick as thieves. They have a group chat where they talk every day, and they're planning a cousins trip next summer, just the 3 of them. Lorraine and I sometimes look at photos of ourselves as babies, and we try to figure out which one is which, but we can't tell. We're completely identical, and we joke that maybe Mama kept the wrong one. Maybe the baby she thought was me was actually Lorraine, and vice versa. We'll never know. And honestly, it doesn't matter, because we're both here now. We're both living our lives. We're both making up for lost time. I've learned a lot through this experience. I've learned that family is complicated, that love can coexist with resentment, that forgiveness is a process, not a destination. I've learned that secrets have a way of coming out eventually, that the truth always surfaces no matter how deep you bury it. I've learned that it's never too late to find your people, to build connections, to create the family you deserve, even if biology tried to keep you apart. But most importantly, I've learned that I'm not alone. I spent 53 years thinking I was an only child, thinking I had no siblings, no one who shared my DNA, my history, my face. And all that time, Lorraine was out there living her life, wondering the same things, feeling the same, an emptiness, and now we have each other. And that changes everything. It changes how I see myself, how I see the world, how I see what's possible. It's made me braver, more open, more willing to take risks, because I know I have someone in my corner, someone who gets me on a cellular level, someone who will always be there. No matter what, if you're watching this video and you've ever felt like something was missing, like there was a piece of your story you didn't understand, I want you to know that you're not alone. There are so many people out there who were adopted, who were separated from siblings, who grew up not knowing their full history. And it's okay to seek answers. It's okay to want to know where you came from, who your people are, what your story is. And if you're someone who's keeping a secret, someone who knows information that could change someone else's life, I'm asking you, please tell the truth. Yes, it might be painful. Yes, it might be complicated. Yes, it might disrupt the comfortable story everyone has been living. But the truth is always better than a lie. Always. The truth gives people power, gives them agency, gives them the ability to make their own choices about their own lives. And that's a gift you can give them even if it's scary. When Marcus showed me that photo of Lorraine 2 years ago, I was terrified. I didn't know what it meant, how it would change my life, whether I wanted to open that door. But I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad Marcus was curious enough to reach out. I'm so glad Lorraine responded. I'm so glad we both had the courage to meet, to talk, to build a relationship, because finding her, finding my sister, my twin, my other half has been the greatest gift of my life, better than any birthday or holiday, or achievement. It's given me a sense of wholeness I didn't even know I was missing. And if our story can inspire even one person to seek their truth, to reach out to that long-lost relative, to ask the hard questions, to push for answers, then every moment of pain and confusion and anger I went through was worth it, because the truth will set you free, and family found or rediscovered or built from scratch is worth fighting for. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about two 53-year-old Black women who were separated at birth and found each other against all odds 53 years later. And if you have your own story of found family, of unexpected connections, of secrets revealed, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Let's build a community of people who understand that family isn't just about who raised you or who you grew up with, but about who claims you, who shows up for you, who chooses you every single day. My sister Lorraine and I have a saying now that we repeat to each other whenever things get hard, whenever we're feeling overwhelmed or sad or frustrated. By all the years we lost, we say better late than never, better to find each other at 53 than to never find each other at all, better to have the rest of our lives together than to spend another day apart. And it's true, every moment we have together is precious. Every phone call, every visit, every shared laugh, every inside joke. We develop every time one of us says something and the other one says, I was just thinking the exact same thing. It's all a gift, a miracle really, because what are the odds? What are the actual odds that my 11-year-old son would stumble across? His aunt's Instagram account would notice. The resemblance would be brave enough to reach out, would show me that photo. What are the odds that Lorraine would respond, would be open to the possibility, would be willing to upend her understanding of her own life to explore this connection? What are the odds that we'd both be in a place, emotionally, mentally, financially, where we could pursue this relationship, could fly back and forth, could invest the time and energy required to build something real? The odds are slim, almost impossibly slim, and yet here we are, living proof that sometimes the universe conspires to bring people together, that sometimes what was broken can be mended, that sometimes families torn apart can be stitched back together, even if the seams show, even if the repair isn't perfect, even if you can see where the fabric was ripped. Last month, Lorraine and I did something we'd been talking about for a while. We got matching tattoos. We went to a tattoo parlor in Atlanta during one of my visits, and we each got a small crescent moon tattooed on our left wrist, right over our pulse point. The crescent moon is significant because we both have that birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on our necks. It's one of the many identical features we share, and we wanted to mark this moment, this chapter of our lives, where we finally found each other. The tattoo artist was a young woman named Keisha, and when we told her our story, she cried. She said her own sister had died in a car accident 5 years ago, and she'd give anything to have her back, to have one more conversation, one more hug, one more moment together. And here we were, two sisters who'd been given a second chance, a do-over, an opportunity to have all those moments we'd missed. "You're so lucky," she said, as she carefully inked the crescent moon onto my wrist. "You're so lucky you found each other." "We know," Lorraine said, squeezing my other hand. "We know, and we're not taking a single day for granted." When we left the tattoo parlor, our wrists wrapped in protective bandages, Lorraine turned to me and said, "You know what? I just realized what that we're marked, now permanently marked as sisters. No one can take this away from us. No one can separate us again. We carry each other with us everywhere we go." I looked down at my bandaged wrist and smiled. "Yeah," I said, "we do." And later, when we showed our kids the tattoos, Marcus said, "That's so cool. Mom, you guys are like a team now. We always were, baby." I told him we just didn't know it. But yes, now it's official. Now everyone can see it. I think a lot about the version of my life where Marcus never found that Instagram account, where I never learned I had a twin sister, where I went to my grave believing I was an only child. That version of Lorraine Baker seems so small now, so incomplete, like a black and white photo, compared to the full color version I'm living now. Because knowing Lorraine, knowing I have a sister, has changed how I move through the world. I'm braver now, more confident. I take more risks. I speak up more. I advocate for myself more. Because I know I have backup. I know there's someone else out there who looks like me, who thinks like me, who will fight for me the way I'll fight. For her, it's changed how I parent, too. I talk to Marcus more openly now about family, about secrets, about the importance of honesty. I've told him about the mistakes Mama made, not to villainize her, but to help him understand that even people who love us deeply can make choices that hurt us, and that it's okay to hold both truths at once, that someone can love you and fail you, that you can forgive someone and still acknowledge the harm they caused. Marcus gets it. He's wise beyond his 14 years, and I think part of that wisdom comes from watching me navigate this complicated journey, watching me work through my anger at Mama, watching me build a relationship with Lorraine, watching me choose grace and forgiveness, even when it would be easier to hold a grudge. "Mom," he said to me a few weeks ago, "I'm really glad I found Aunt Lorraine's Instagram, me too." "Baby," I said, "me too, and I'm proud of you for being brave enough to reach out, for not ignoring what you saw, for pushing us to deal with it, even when it was hard." He shrugged. "It just seemed important, like it was meant to happen." "You know, maybe it was." I said, "Maybe the universe was just waiting for the right moment, for the right person to connect the dots, and you were that person." He smiled. "Yeah, I guess I was pretty cool." "Huh, extremely cool." I said, "The coolest." And I hugged him tight, grateful for this child of mine who'd given me back something I didn't even know I'd lost. Lorraine and I are planning something special. For next year, we're going to go back to Chicago, to the hospital where we were born, and we're going to try to get our birth records. We want to see if there's any documentation about what happened the day we were born, whether there are notes from the nurses or doctors, anything that might give us more insight into how the decision was made to separate us. We don't know if we'll find anything. Hospitals don't always keep records that long, and even if they do, they might not give them to us. But we have to try. We have to know as much as we can about our story, about where we came from, about the moment our lives diverged. We're also talking about trying to find our birth father, Marcus Green. Mama said he left when she told him she was pregnant, that he wanted nothing to do with fatherhood. But maybe that's changed. Maybe in the 54 years since then, he's had regrets. Maybe he's wondered about us. Maybe he'd want to know. He has 2 daughters, 2 grandchildren, that he's a part of something bigger than himself? Or maybe not. Maybe he's still the same selfish 19-year-old in a 54-year-old body. Maybe he'll want nothing to do with us. Maybe reaching out will just open old wounds, but we won't know unless we try. And Lorraine and I have decided that we're done letting fear stop us from seeking truth. Done letting other people's choices dictate our story. We're taking control of our narrative, writing our own ending, and if that means tracking down a father who abandoned us before we were born, then so be it. We deserve to know. We deserve to look him in the eye and ask him why we deserve to decide for ourselves whether he gets to be part of our lives going forward. Mama never told us much about him, just that his name was Marcus, which is why she named my son after him, and that he was tall and smart and charming and completely unprepared for responsibility. But there has to be more to the story. There has to be a reason beyond just fear. Why he left, why he never looked back, why he never tried to find out if his children were okay, and I want to know that reason. I want to understand what kind of man walks away from his own flesh and blood and never looks back. Lorraine feels the same way. She says she's spent her whole life wondering about her birth parents, and now that she knows about Mama, now that she's processed that relationship, she needs to know about him too. She needs the full picture, even if it's ugly, even if it's disappointing, even if he wants nothing to do with us. So that's our next chapter, our next adventure. 2 middle-aged black women tracking down the man who helped create them, who gave them life, and then disappeared, and whatever we find, whatever he says or doesn't say, we'll face it together, the way we face everything now, side by side, twin sisters who were separated by circumstance, but brought back together by fate, by curiosity, by an 11-year-old boy with an Instagram account and a keen eye. You know what the wildest part of all of this is? I said to Lorraine during our last phone call what she asked, that we lived 53 years in the same country, sometimes in the same state. We were both in Chicago for the first 18 years of our lives, just in different neighborhoods. We could have passed each other on the street, we could have seen each other and felt that weird sense of recognition that people sometimes talk about when they see someone who looks like them. We could have been in the same grocery store, the same park, the same restaurant, and never known. I know, Lorraine said. I think about that all the time. I think about all the near misses, all the times we might have been in the same place and just didn't see each other. It's heartbreaking in a way. Yeah, I agreed, but also it makes this moment right now even more precious because we did find each other eventually. Against all odds, across all those years, we found each other, and that has to mean something. That has to be worth something. It means everything. Lorraine said, it's worth everything. And you know what, Lorraine? What I'm grateful. She said, I'm grateful for every single thing that led us to this moment, even the painful parts, even Mama's choice, even the years of not knowing, because all of it brought us here to this friendship, to this sisterhood, to this love, and I wouldn't trade that for anything, not even for 53 extra years. I felt tears prick my eyes. Me too. I whispered, me too. So, that's my story. That's how my 11-year-old son came home and asked me why I had another family and showed me a photo that changed my life forever. It's a story about secrets and lies and the complicated choices people make when they're young and scared and alone. It's a story about forgiveness, about understanding that hurt people, and that sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who cause us the deepest pain. It's a story about the unbreakable bond between twins, about how even when you're separated by distance and time and circumstance, there's still something that connects you, something deeper than memory or experience, something cellular, something that can't be erased or denied. It's a story about family, about the family you choose, and the family that chooses you back, about how it's never too late to build those connections, to reach out, to take a risk, to say yes. I want to know you. I want to love you. I want you in my life. And most of all, it's a story about hope, about second chances, about the possibility of redemption and healing and wholeness, even when it seems impossible, even when it seems like too much time has passed, even when it seems like the damage is too deep to repair. Because if Lorraine and I can find each other after 53 years, if we can build a relationship from scratch, if we can forgive the people who separated us and move forward with love and grace, then anything is possible. Any broken thing can be mended. Any lost thing can be found. Any family can be reunited if you have the courage to seek the truth, the willingness to be vulnerable, and the faith that love can overcome anything, even time, even distance, even 53 years of absence. So if you're out there and you're missing someone, if you're wondering about a sibling you've never met or a parent you've never known, if you have questions about your past, about where you came from, about who your people are, I'm telling you, don't wait. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let the possibility of rejection or disappointment or pain keep you from seeking answers, because the truth is always better than not knowing, and family found is always better than family lost and love given. Late is still love, and it's still worth having. Take it from me. Take it from my sister Lorraine. Take it from our sons and our families who have all been enriched by this unexpected gift we've been given. Reach out. Ask the hard questions. Push for answers. And if you find what you're looking for, if you discover that missing piece, that hole in your heart, that thing you didn't even know you were searching for, then hold on to it tight. Don't take a single moment for granted, because life is short and uncertain. And the people we love can be taken from us in an instant. But the time we have together, the connections we build, the love we share, that's forever. That's eternal. That's what matters in the end. Not the years we lost, but the years we found, not the time we spent apart, but the time we spent together. Not the family we were denied, but the family we created from the ashes of that denial, and that, my friends, is worth everything. It's worth the pain. It's worth the confusion. It's worth the anger and the heartbreak and the years of not knowing, because on the other side of all that pain is something beautiful, something precious, something worth fighting for. My name is Lorraine Baker. I'm 55 years old in 3 years. Ago, my son showed me a photo that led me to my twin sister and changed my life forever. And I'm here to tell you that miracles do happen, that lost things can be found, that families torn apart can come back together, and that it's never, ever too late for love. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks, so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story on the screen. You can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.